1 week, one trouble. PDP serves another installment of its House of Commission series. In Zamfara, the State Assembly suspends 10 members, but all 10 are pushing back. And on the sub-region, ECOWAS has bid exiting members Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger farewell from the community. We advise for them to close the door gently. Also on political updates today, not a good week in court for former Kogi Governor Yaya Bello. We have this and more on the program. I'm Fisayo Ogunfuyi. Welcome. The Board of Trustees of the People's Democratic Party has described the internal crisis rocking the People's Democratic Party as unfortunate, tasking the National Working Committee to honor its words by convening the National Executive Committee meeting in February 2025 as promised. While the meeting was holding behind closed doors to resolve the crisis rocking the party, there was a breakout of clashes between the supporters of the two officers laying claim to the office of the National Party Secretary this week.
The People's Democratic Party has been immersed in leadership crisis following the outcome of its last national convention. There seems to be no end to the crisis rocking the party, with many issues coming up in different ways. This Wednesday's meeting of the Board of Trustees of the PDP is seeking ways to restore peace in the party.
The failure to resolve these internal conflicts undermines the strength and credibility of our great party. It is therefore imperative that the National Working Committee rises above personal interests and places the survival and progress of our great party above all considerations.
Most of this crisis that you see today within the NWC is propelled by our leaders that are supposed to unite us. It's very unfortunate, I would say it the way it is.
The former national youth leader of the PDP, Sunday Okoye, who is also laying claim to the office of the national secretary of the party, was present at the meeting as a BOT member. He was, however, allegedly asked to leave the meeting, resulting in a clash with opposing supporters. Addressing the media after the closed-door BOT meeting, in a 10-point communique, Chairman of the Board, Senator Adolphus Wabara, confirmed NWC resolved to convene next meeting in February 2025. BOT also set up a committee headed by Tanimu Turaki SAN to interface with the two persons laying claim to the office of the PDP National Secretary and feed the leadership of the party with findings towards resolving the internal crisis. The survival and future of the PDP going forward is dependent on time.
10 Zamfara State House of Assembly members out of the 24 on the platforms of the opposition, All Progressive Congress and the ruling People's Democratic Party in the state have raised alarm over alleged executive interference in the business of the legislature. Lawmakers of the 7th Assembly in the state said their suspension was ill-motivated and does not conform with the business rules of the House.
Our salaries and allowances have been withheld. Our constituents not represented since then, just for voicing out our constituents' security challenges before the House, which became a crime against the House leadership. The suspension, which was effected without due process or fair hearing, is a clear violation of our rights and the principles of natural justice. The declaration of minority leader's seat vacant is a further attempt to silence him and enfranchise him for his stance on the call for assembly to reverse the suspension of 8 honorable members and address the injustice.
All right, we'll move to the sub-region now. We'll still return to some political stories later on, but going to the sub-region, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has confirmed this week the withdrawal of Burkina Faso, the Republic of Mali, and the Republic of Niger from the regional bloc effective, that was on Wednesday, the 29th of January 2025. At a press briefing here in Abuja, President of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Aliou Omar Toure, said despite the exit, citizens of the three nations will retain certain privileges.
Draw of the three Sahel states was ratified at the December 15, 2024 summit of the Authority of Heads of States and Government of ECOWAS to take effect from January 29, 2025. So, at the moment, the hitherto 15-member regional bloc is now a body of 12 members. Despite the depletion in its numerical strength, ECOWAS says it remains focused on its objectives and that citizens of the three affected countries will continue to enjoy privileges accruing to all ECOWAS citizens until engagements with their countries are concluded, but with a time frame yet to be decided.
Question of withdrawal is a sovereign decision. It's a sovereign decision, but ECOWAS has shown the whole world, and the community in particular, the value of being a member of ECOWAS. This is the region, the only region on the continent, where with a simple ID card, you can move from one end to another end. I'm not saying there are no problems, but legally, you can move from one end to another end. You can pick up your passport, hop on a plane, and go anywhere else without having to go through all these visa problems. This is also a region where member states can trade freely among themselves for produce that are qualified under ECOWAS's trade liberalization scheme. So this is what we must build on for the benefit of our community. And I believe nobody should have problem with this.
Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali indicated their intention to leave the ECOWAS bloc in January 2024. Series of engagements to persuade them to change their stance were unsuccessful. They have since formed a coalition of alliance of Sahel states.
Now to the discussion proper. Many may say what was once a strong bloc of nations forging a common destiny for the West African sub-region has suffered a great blow with the exit of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, all three being francophone countries. There are wider implications to this development. Aruna Wakani, a former ECOWAS diplomat, joins us on Political Update today. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you, Uncle.
Now, why was this exit desirable for these countries?
Well, I think this exit might seem a very simple disagreement within a family that has long been cohesive for 50 years. However, I think the real issue is the interference of France in the matters of this sub-region. At the background, you will see that these three countries had problems with their former colonial master, and any other thing done would have been that they did not enjoy the kind of support they expected ever to have from the colonial master. Exploitation has been very high between the French and its colonies around the world, not just in Africa. France has been very, very imperialistic in its dealings with its former colonies. And it extended and deepened here in West Africa to a point where citizens now see France truly not as a colonial master anymore, but just exploitator. So the crises were exacerbated by the presence and activities of France in this sub-region. ECOWAS ordinarily, its members are happy with it. Things are moving fine. Like the president of the commission said, ECOWAS sub-region became a model on the African continent of regional integration. No doubt about that. However, over time, these particular French-speaking countries have had these challenges of the jihadist insurgency, and there seems to be nothing done positively to redress this. France has maintained a military base within the sub-region in several countries with the express intention of maintaining peace and order. However, from experiences so far, that has fallen very short of all expectations. And so the troops' presence in West Africa had proven to be for other reasons other than security, because whereas the military bases were there had been attacks and, so many incidences that you cannot possibly explain. United Nations have tried as well to make sure there is peace. The UN peace mission in Mali, all to no avail of whatsoever. So, you see, citizens have lost hope in the entire setting. And as you can see, when the coups occurred in these countries, they occurred because the military felt they had been abandoned by the political leadership in their various countries. And anywhere you go, the story seems to be the same. Soldiers are asked to go and die. Nothing is happening. What they were expecting from the political leaders was not happening. So eventually, the soldiers decided to take their fate into their own hands. And we can see in quick succession from Guinea, Mali, Burkina, and finally Niger. And then ECOWAS's response was also not too good. So it created an opportunity for them to say they need to go so that they can stand on their
there's
own.
a second narrative. Are these countries being seduced by another big player?
Well, you cannot create a vacuum easily and remain so. Therefore, yes, within the sidelines of what is going on, surely a foreign power is interested in the vacuum so created, because France cannot be enjoying the loot of West Africa alone. Other countries are also watching. And there are new emerging superpowers all over the place. So you can't rule out the possibility of anyone interested in filling this vacuum, which have been hanging along, all along. Not that they ignore the sub-region. People know the potentials of this sub-region is such that it will be difficult for any superpower to ignore Africa as a whole, and West Africa in particular, because we possess what it needs for any economy to thrive. And so, beside the security challenges, countries are interested in the economy of this sub-region, from agriculture to minerals, etc. So yes, there are foreign powers that are interested and are deeply involved, I suppose.
All right, let's look at, administrations in place before the men in boots, came and, took over. Were they the best advertisements for democracy in those countries?
Indeed, if we would say anything, I think politicians made the transition to military rule very, very possible by behaving in a very undemocratic manner. From elections to administration or governance, everything fell apart. You cannot stand up today and say, here is a country in West Africa that conducted a successful democratic election. And in every case, you see that politicians managed to manipulate the system such that the outcome clearly was the opposite of people's aspirations as to a civilian administration.
So let's, since time is not our friend on this particular discussion, do you see a way back for these countries down the road? Of course, Mauritania went way by, tried to come back again. It didn't. For Cape Verde, there was a time there was a seesaw relationship, but it eventually returned to the fold. Can we see something like a way back for these countries, especially if things stabilize?
Well, if things stabilize, these countries are bye-bye. They are not coming back. That's certain. The only thing that might happen, which could bring them back, would be if there was a change of government in these places. But for them, as they are now, it's going to be very difficult for them to hear anything like coming back. Don't forget, they said they are leaving, and they said on so-so date we are gone. They were not even giving any notice to the community that we want to go. They just simply announced that we have gone. That is the difference with someone who says,
I want to go.
Yes, I want to go.
I've gone.
You have to go or something. But they just came out openly and say, we have gone.
Well,
so even the extension of time by ECOWAS is seen just as a good father, good big brother in West Africa to see what can we do to keep these people around, because now, by May, ECOWAS will be celebrating 50. And that's a very bad way of celebrating the sub-region. So ECOWAS has been very conscious and really done very, very well to see how to bring back these people. But unfortunately, I think the decisions have been too far. They have issued a passport of their own. They are issuing their currency very soon. And the measures and soft landing provided by ECOWAS today, yes, is very good to maintain community relations. But coming back formally into the fold of ECOWAS might be very, very difficult.
All right, I think it's a good way to rest that. Hopefully, we'll just be looking at some of the infrastructure that ECOWAS has put in some of those places. I remember in Ouagadougou, we attended something put together by the CDGS for the youth development and all that. We will know what becomes of all these different centers built by ECOWAS in these countries. Perhaps they will put it to other uses and all that. But let's put them to other uses. I beg your pardon. Let's move on to some other issues. The book 100 Years of Political Parties Evolution in Nigeria has been unveiled with the theme, The Imperative of Nigeria's Political Stability, Issues and Solutions. The book was powered by the Inter-Party Advisory Council in collaboration with the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies.
100 years of political parties evolution in Nigeria, 1923 to 2023. A century and indeed a milestone in the nation's democratic growth. It documents the political party landscape from 1923 to 2023, serves as a testament to the rich history, evolution and resilience of political parties in Nigeria, and also a reflection of the trials and triumphs, the challenges and achievements that have shaped the political landscape over the past century. The leadership of IPAC paid tribute to the visionaries, the leaders and the citizens who have contributed to the growth and development of the nation's democracy.
Let us reflect on the lessons of the past, celebrate the milestones of the present, and chart a course for a future filled with unity, progress, and prosperity for all Nigerians.
We need to sit down, reflect, and decide whether we want to move Nigeria forward.
INEC National Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, in a message to the event, promised INEC continued genuine partnership with IPAC towards deepening the nation's democracy.
This partnership is committed to promoting adherence to democratic principles, improving election management, and strengthening our collective resolve to deepen democracy in Nigeria.
Former Head of State General Abdul Salami Abubakar chaired the event with former President of the Senate, Ayim Pius Ayim, delivering the keynote address that went down memory lane to Nigeria's journey to nationhood.
In any heterogeneous or plural country of similar complexity as Nigeria, the need for national dialogue and minimum consensus on the terms of the Union cannot be ignored.
We should therefore keep watering and nurturing the tree of democracy, as there is no alternative to civil rule.
In a panel discussion, speakers promised to do only those things that will promote and defend the interest of all political parties in Nigeria.
All right, 100 years of Nigeria in politics and the resilience of political parties. You've seen that on our Wakani, and earlier at the top of the show you saw fisticuffs at the party secretariat a week ago, tussle over the chairmanship of different parties, cross-carpeting and all that. Are we maturing? Even the 100 years when you're talking about, resilience and all that, what about the evolving into better political parties and as well speaking to the needs of the people in terms of ideology?
Over the years, elections have generated controversies and dominated the country's political landscape, particularly concerning issues such as voter apathy, ballot snatching, the timely distribution of sensitive election materials, the declaration of results, and the overall conduct of the electoral process. At the federal, state, and local cycles, many election-related problems are exacerbated when stakeholders compromise information and social media influencers amplify these falsehoods, further undermining the system and eroding public trust in electoral processes. These issues also manifest at intra-party level and can sometimes complicate judicial proceedings.
It's not easy to determine what is factual and what is not factual. And in approaching it, therefore, that problem, you need to look for other resources, other things to confirm.
I think it's important to bring into the mix of our work sub-national elections that are conducted by the state independent electoral commissions.
It's ICCC, INEC Citizen Contact Center. So that is a platform where information is, the commission monitors whatever is being out there in the social media, in the traditional media.
The interactive session highlighted the need for the Electoral Commission to streamline processes and operate within the framework of the law.
We can have a freer space where the minds of citizens is not affected by negative narrative around elections. We still want people to come out and vote at all times.
Recommendations focused on amending electoral laws, addressing legal and constitutional complications, and examining the roles of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, the judiciary, the media, and security agencies in conducting electoral process.
All right, it was just nice that the director put two together so that we can just bring INEC 2 on board. We talked about maturity of political parties and also the sanctity of elections. So bringing that together and looking at where we are now, are we maturing?
Well, it's very difficult to say.
Go ahead, please.
It's very difficult for us to say we are matured because we are still doing things that don't tally with maturity, namely playing politics so much that governance suffers. And we can see that the actual enemies of democracy are the politicians themselves. So we need to have done a little better because the political structures have changed over time from the early 60s to what we have today. And yet we seem to be grappling with what our view. Elections are still very difficult to manage in the country. So I mean, how many and how long do we continue to learn? I think that is the greatest question. We are operating, for instance, the only federal structure that looks quite difficult to define or manage because you have a federalism that still has traditional rulers who have nothing, no definite purpose, no definite function, and what they can fit in or not fit in. You have political parties that do not have internal democracy. So that creates another matter of concern because some of the crises we have seen actually came from within the political parties. So if parties who claim to be vehicles to deliver democracy dividends are unable to manage their own affairs internally, how do they manage the affairs of the nation at large? This is the greatest question of our time.
All right, that is how we'll end it while we're looking for leaders to emerge from those parties. Some parties are also breeding in new boxers for the Nigerian Olympic team. So perhaps we also look for reinforcements in that arena as well. So that's the program today. We will be back next week. Between now and then, play your politics for the greater good and keep it locked on the Nigerian Television Authority, Africa's finest and largest. For news, reviews, previews, and interviews, bye-bye now.